Chapter 2 is called Creation, but it could be called the creation of the world apart from humanity. So I do the creation of humanity separately afterwards. And I guess I want to talk about two things that really struck me as I went back to Genesis 1 and 2 and tried to read them closely and read some sort of commentary on them. The first thing is just the way in which God's creation is abundant and overflowing in goodness. If you highlight in Genesis 1 and 2 all the instances of the words all and every, they come time and time and time again. There's a sense of a multifariousness to creation. You know, God didn't create one sort of tree or one sort of animal, but there's an abundance of different types. There's almost a gleeful creativity going on in Genesis 1. But, or rather because it doesn't contradict it, it complements it wonderfully. Creation just works beautifully, doesn't it? It's really functional. You know, there's nothing that's going wrong in creation. There's nothing that's lopsided. And again, I think it's when you take both of these together, the excess and the abundance and the beauty and the joy and the creativity, and also the functionality. It is perfect, isn't it? It works like clockwork. And how often do we tease those two things apart in our own cultural production? We either drive for efficiency, don't we, and end up with something that's ugly and sucks the life out of you, or we major on beauty but lose efficiency and things working like clockwork. And what God manages to do is he creates a world that satisfies both of these desires and both of these values. It is functional, it is efficient, if you like, in that sense. It works, but it's also beautiful and luxuriant and overflowing. That's one of the things that really struck me about creation. And of course, that then rhythms a Christian approach to the world. That is the sort of world that God creates. That is a standard, if you like, to look for in the world. We don't want to split functionality off from beauty. The second thing that I was trying to reflect on in the chapter that I want to talk about in this video is the way in which we have tended to think of ourselves in the West in terms of seeing two separate things in the world. There are facts, what is, and values, what those things are worth. And perhaps ever since Kant, certainly Kant drove a wedge into it if it wasn't already happening before. We cleave those two things apart. So we end up with valueless facts and values that are sort of floating in the ether and not rooted in factual reality. But what Genesis 1 gives us is a view of reality where those two things aren't dismembered and taken apart. God saw that it was so, and it was so, and it was so. But also, there is another repeated phrase, God saw that it was good. And there's no sense in which those two statements are qualitatively different. It was so and it was good are just both there in the created reality. And God is the source both of this reality's being and the source of its ethics, if you like, the fact that it's good. And so in God, you don't have this division between facts and values. And I think that's a much healthier way to configure reality than to sort of send values floating off down the river like we have and end up with valueless facts like we've done in the modern world. So just two ways there in which the way that Genesis 1 talks about creation, I think is really refreshing and challenging in the face of modern ways of construing what the world is and who we are in it.